welcome to the Vivid View. My name is Jennifer Rogers and I'm from Vivid Financial Services. So far, my colleague and I, Matt, have hosted two different series on the Vivid View. One about your first home loan, which follows the process that the lenders, the brokers and yourself will follow obtaining your first home loan, and some Gen Y related topics such as investing, budgeting, etc. So today we'll be following suit with the Gen Y topics, and we will be holding a Q&A with Matt Brennan, my colleague, also the founder of Vivid Financial Services, and we'll be asking questions from a handful of Gen Ys that have emailed through and basically getting a baby boomer's perspective. So Matthew Brennan is our principal broker, as I mentioned, and he's a founder of Vivid Financial Services. He's been broking for over 11 years, and in the last 5 years he was heavily involved in investment and construction lending, along with his bread and butter being overall finances and mortgages. So now I think it's safe to say Matt has a lot of experience and knowledge when it comes to finance and mortgages, among other things. So we'll welcome Matt to the show now.
Good afternoon.
Afternoon.
Hi everybody.
So thanks for agreeing to do this.
It's a pleasure.
Basically, we'll be putting you on the spot, asking you a handful of questions from Gen Ys. Some of them are my friends, some of them are just people who have sent through from the YouTube channel.
Okay.
So you ready to get started?
Ready to go.
Okay, so first question from Elizabeth, who's 23 years old. If you could do it over, what would you do differently when buying your first home, knowing what you know today?
That's a good question. I think the most important thing to try and achieve is a big deposit. As big a deposit as you can possibly get together. My wife and I bought our first home in 1986 and we only had like a couple of $1,000s. The home was only $65,000, but our income was a lot lower by comparison. So my advice to anyone out there looking to buy a house now, try and save at least 10 to 15% of the property value, which will cover your deposit plus the costs involved. So definitely try and save more.
Next question is from Karen, who's 20 years old. She asks, what did you know about mortgages, loans and interest rates when you did buy your first home?
It's a pretty easy question to answer. Absolutely nothing. We knew nothing about interest rates, loans or anything like that, or any of the criteria that you had to meet. My wife did work for the bank, but she was a teller, so she wasn't involved in the lending side of things. We went into it with absolutely no experience. We didn't even do any research. We just thought, there's a house we'd like to buy, let's get some money. And we actually got knocked back by a number of lenders and had one fellow actually laugh at us when we said we wanted to borrow money after he looked at our position. So it was an embarrassing time for us. Certainly I would have liked to have done more homework, and if I had the chance again, I would certainly do a lot more homework and look at the banks and look at what they want and get involved in the interest rates and just do some homework, research what you're trying to do would be my biggest advice.
So the next question is from Samantha, 24. How much was a basic home back then and how much of a deposit was required?
Okay, that's a good question because by comparison it's obviously a lot different than it is today. Our first home we bought was only a small home. I think it was 11 squares including the garage. That was $64,950 from memory. So not a lot of money in today's terms. But back then it was a lot of money compared to what you're earning as an income. Today incomes are a lot higher, so obviously the economy is better and the prices of homes are a lot higher. Maximum loan we got then, we got a 95% loan, and I don't recall if we had mortgage insurance. I really don't think they had mortgage insurance back then. Obviously today they do, over 80%, but yeah, 95% loan. So it was scary to get to borrow that much money back then, but
Very scary.
times have changed. So not a great deal of difference with loan to value ratios now, but obviously the dollar values are so much greater.
Oh, definitely. Yeah, great question, Samantha. Now that's all we have time for today. If you do have any of your own questions, pop them in the box below. We'll ask them on next week's episode.
Yeah, that's great. Look, we had to cut today a bit short because we've got double the questions that we've already asked today. And look, I didn't know what these questions were going to be, and that's the God's truth. Jen asked me would I do this. I said, yeah, not a problem, but she wouldn't let me read the questions first. So I'm very happy to do this. Now, again, questions next week would be great. If you have any questions, as Jen said, if you want some information that hasn't been covered today, send us a message in the box below or jump on the website, vividfinancialservices.com.au. Leave your details in the contact box and we'll come back to you in 24 business hours. Great. Thank you very much for your time, Jen. Thanks very much for listening and coming in every week. We'll see you next week. Stay safe.
Have a great weekend.
Thank you.